two individuals discuss the curious climate around Tianqi Lake, noting how despite being closer to the sun, it remains cold due to surrounding snowy mountains. They observe that summer here could be mistaken for winter, though if it were truly winter, the lake and rivers would freeze, making Mount Tianqi inaccessible. One person mentions that no one from their clan would dare defy them. They discuss a historian who requested a name be chosen, a national title that encompasses everything: the clans, future generations, and all natural elements. After consideration, they decide on the name Xia, meaning summer, with hopes the vast land will forever flourish in greenery. Xing from the Bureau of Oversight and Integrity conducts inspections at Hydrological Observatory A38 on the Grandeur River, collecting data for analysis. Secretary Qing mentions finishing quarterly inspections soon and planning to take a month off to enjoy the Harvest Festival in September. Someone gives Secretary Cheng a yellow iris picked by the riverside as a gift, noting it has bloomed for over a week without wilting. This seems to concern Cheng, who decides to investigate the riverside, noticing something unusual about the flower. At the riverside, Secretary Cheng encounters someone fishing who mentions strange occurrences. Fish aren't biting despite numerous ospreys in the area, and mosquitoes aren't biting people. Cheng decides to investigate further, noticing an unusual abundance of insects. During the investigation, Cheng's blade strikes something unusually hard. The area shows concerning anomalies: aggressive ospreys with blue feathers and unnaturally sharp beaks and claws, possibly indicating a contagious disease. Cheng realizes these changes, along with mutant insects and unusual clustering behavior, point to an anomaly. With the chief executive away, reporting to superiors at Diangyan Pavilion, the Bureau of Oversight and Integrity assumes responsibility for city management. A meeting is called to address the growing crisis, with Secretary King presiding and requesting updates from various departments. The Bureau of Husbandry and Agriculture reports worsening conditions with crops stagnating in their growth phase. Plants display an unusual metallic green coloration spreading like rust. This unusual phenomenon affects both plants and animals, suggesting a cross-species disease that they lack the means to identify. Secretary Cheng questions the Bureau of Treasury and Trade about projected agricultural production drops. They estimate production will be only 3 to 7% of previous year's levels. Current grain reserves can sustain Xi'an for 9 months, or 2 years when combined with national reserves. The meeting reveals serious logistical challenges in responding to the crisis. The Bureau of Roads and Travel admits to driver shortages and funding issues, but hasn't properly communicated these needs to other departments. Secretary Cheng grows increasingly frustrated by the lack of emergency preparedness and coordination between bureaus. At a government meeting, the Bureau of Roads and Travel faces harsh criticism for laziness, cowardice, short-sightedness, and incompetence. Their excuses about limited manpower are rejected, and they're threatened with an official report for impeding grain transportation. The Bureaus of Health and Welfare and Treasury and Trade are also reprimanded for slow progress. Director Feng takes responsibility for production issues, suggesting everyone should calm down and cooperate across departments. The situation requires guidance from the Well-being Office. Secretary Cheng apologizes for losing temper and requests all departments investigate causes behind unproductive crops through comprehensive data collection. The discussion turns to reserve grain requirements. Director Feng estimates a minimum of 40 million tons will be needed for fall and winter if total crop failure is confirmed. Secretary Cheng emphasizes this number is non-negotiable and expects everyone's best efforts in addressing the crisis. The crop failure is confirmed to be caused by anomalies. Secretary Tsing regrets losing temper, recognizing the Songli municipal government lacks means to solve the problem themselves. After leaving the meeting, they notice unusual gatherings of people and an activated sprinkler system. A photographer narrowly escapes an aggressive osprey attack, noting such behavior is highly unusual. These birds rarely leave wetlands or approach humans, yet they're gathering around city sprinklers. The birds and other animals appear strangely attracted to the sprinklers, and become more aggressive after drinking the water. At a separate meeting, Jing returns to report that the crop failure is indeed caused by an anomaly. The group discusses that Master Yuan Xuan has left for Jingdi City, which is currently isolated from the outside world. With limited personnel remaining, they must investigate plant and animal symptoms. The team discusses mobilizing transportation from other regions while monitoring hospitals for signs of cross-species disease transmission. They worry about potential human infection and prepare for a worst-case scenario affecting all of Songlin City. Communication with the Imaeon has been lost for 3 days. A character named Sign is searching for the mutation source without clear directions. While contemplating whether tossing an apple core counts as littering, she encounters a strange lizard, suggesting wildlife is behaving abnormally in the area. Officials express grave concern about the potential crop failure before autumn, which would threaten Qian's food supply. They fear a repeat of the devastating famine that struck the western region 15 years ago and stress the urgency of resolving the crisis before summer ends. During investigation, unusual gatherings of farm animals are discovered, showing strange interest in drinking water. Plants appear abnormal, and many oxen and water lizards have congregated in non-pastoral areas. The animals seem particularly attracted to water from sprinklers. A confrontation occurs with mutated oxen whose horns and hooves resemble metal crystals. Their bodies have undergone significant changes, and they gather around active sprinklers, drawn to the water. A local resident emerges, surprised to find a young girl investigating the field. A mysterious visitor encounters an old farmer after dealing with green crystallized oxen. The farmer, unable to see the crystals, believes the animals are diseased. He invites the visitor for lunch, noting the difficult times they're experiencing in the region. During their meal, the farmer identifies the visitor as being from the western region by observing their eating habits. He explains that people who've experienced famine eat differently, as starvation leaves a permanent mark. The visitor acknowledges this connection to their past. The farmer expresses concern about slower crop growth that might affect the harvest festival. When asked about unusual occurrences, he suggests investigating the Grainger River, explaining that water sources are typically the first suspect when crops and animals get sick on a large scale. Visitor, now identified as Singh, returns to report findings to someone named Sang. Despite Sang's admonishment about yelling in public, Singh eagerly shares the discovery that the water source appears to be causing the mutations in plants and animals. Other investigators confirm Singh's theory with scientific evidence showing correlations between water impurity and mutations. They conclude the anomaly affecting Qingyu City has spread to Songlin City through the Grandeur River, requiring immediate action to protect residents. The group prioritizes stopping Songlin City residents from drinking water from the Grandeur River. They plan to send water samples to the Medical Academy in Delphi for analysis. Interestingly, they mention instructions from Master Yuanquan not to report these issues to someone named Emian. The scene shifts to a conversation between someone referred to as Master and a person named Anshun. The Master appears tired but determined, instructing Anshun to delete records of their bandwidth usage during a recent meeting to avoid attention from an organization called Weishu. Anshun questions the Master's collaboration with a group called Nemesis, which he considers dishonorable. The Master explains this alliance is necessary because Nemesis promised information about when the beacons would be reactivated, something crucial to the Master's plans. The Master reveals the beacon in Xinyu City is already active with the Grandeur River spreading its blessings. He describes ongoing events as a game between himself and Yuan Xuan, instructing Anshun to eliminate any factors that might interfere with this final battle. Scene changes to someone watching over a bedridden person who finally awakens. The watcher offers water and asks how to address the awakened individual, referring to them as possibly the Prophecy Seer, one of 2 Tower of Babel survivors, or the last director of M. Zero took a bold step to protect someone, nearly losing her life in the process. A figure introduces themselves as Juntan, the same one from the poem about Juntan Pavilion and Parrot Island. They begin explaining what happened at the Library of Babel, mentioning the god of the sun, the prophecy, Oedipus's tragedy, and Nemesis. Juntan explains they received a message from Viola about Emian getting a new director. Upon rushing back, they found only the listener and Zero among the ruins. Juntan lacks emotional connection to those potentially lost. They suggest they might not be dead at all. The Library of Babel hasn't been destroyed and cannot be. Juntan shares a parable about blind people examining different parts of an elephant to explain how the library only shows glimpses of its endless contents. They compare the beacon to a power source and the Tower of Babel to a computer. While the connection to the Library of Babel is severed, the library itself endures. The impact merely closed its gate to reality temporarily. As long as the beacon remains, the library will reappear when reactivated. Juntun reveals they found the true beacon next to the listener when rescuing them from Nemesis. Zero has awakened. Juntan has spoken with her and arranged their schedule. They need a place to stay, and Juntan has entered their destination into the navigation system. Juntan reveals they've left Obid and are now traveling in a new continent called Chen. Chen is both a nation and ancient civilization. Unlike Polestar, Japheth, Cyril, and Delphi, Chen is vast with its own culture, history, and customs. It has undergone dramatic changes from imperial rule to modern society. Their destination is Kanglan City, the largest agricultural center in China. Something goes wrong with the autopilot system. Zero attempts to operate it manually, having read about these machines in books. Despite understanding the principles, she struggles with the controls. A bird named Anne interjects with comments that Zero dismisses, telling the listener to ignore it. Zero explains that Juntan has told her about the Tower of Babel and Emian. Apart from those on duty outside the tower, they are the only survivors of an incident. Emian no longer exists, but they're receiving assistance from Weisha, where Juntan belongs. Weisha is a member of Cave that protects Tian in the east. They encounter strange colored vapor that keeps thickening, reducing visibility. Zero identifies it as an anomaly or its effect. They decide to keep moving forward rather than stopping. Suddenly, they're confronted by bizarre phenomena and hear repeated phrases about complete insight while searching for someone called the Seer. A person named Wuxia introduces themselves as one of the vigilantes. They explain that Kanglan City has been under quarantine for over a week due to the Grandeur River being contaminated by an unknown substance, causing a pandemic affecting plants and animals. Their vehicle was attacked by oxen, and Wuxia offers to report their situation to authorities. A stranger is being taken to a safe house after what appears to be a car accident. The area is affected by a mysterious Cerulean vapor, forcing them to wait before searching for the stranger's missing companion. Mr. Nong has contacted the Bureau of Civil Security about the visitor's situation. Someone will arrive at dawn to collect them, while the host plans to search the crash site for the visitor's missing companion. The host encourages the exhausted visitor to rest, suggesting they can discuss matters in the morning. Sleep is offered as the best remedy for their weariness after what must have been a difficult journey. The host introduces himself as Nongji, a retired farmer who now tends to his garden. He offers experimental grapes to the visitor, lamenting that Kanglan City has seen better days and expressing disappointment about the timing of recent events. Nongji explains his grape experiments, assuring the visitor the fruit is safe despite being new varieties. He reveals the Cerulean vapor has stopped his grapes from growing, potentially ruining his extensive 100-acre crop. Nongji points out tower-type farming terminals outside, explaining how these machines form part of the city's centralized agriculture system. With these technologies, a single farmer can cultivate nearly 2,000 acres, handling everything from sowing to harvest. Nongji recalls witnessing famine 15 years ago in the western region, a haunting memory his generation will never forget. He hopes younger generations won't experience such hardships thanks to modern farming technology that spares them physical toll. The scene shifts to officials discussing the crisis. The central agricultural system has stopped drawing water from the Grandeur River, and irrigation across the fertile plains is suspended. Despite these measures, crop anomalies continue to spread. The crisis has escalated, with residents of Canlan City developing an unhealthy cerulean skin toad similar to infected crops. Over 1,600 reports of abnormal animal behavior have been recorded, increasing at an alarming rate of 10% daily. Officials debate postponing the Harvest Festival, the city's most important annual event. While some worry about upsetting residents, others argue transparency is crucial, stating that truth doesn't inspire fear, concealment does. Someone named Shin escapes from meetings and decides to visit the old man's property, offering to patrol his fields in exchange for food. Upon arrival, she notices all lights are on, unusually late at night, and investigates. Evidence of a car accident is discovered, raising questions about how outsiders entered the sealed-off Songling city. Blood prints are found and suspicions of intruders arise. A confrontation occurs when Sin mistakes the visitor for an intruder. The old man intervenes, revealing the person is actually his guest. Sin defends her actions, saying she thought the stranger was a thief. Sin scolds the old man for refusing to evacuate despite government orders. She claims she visits daily out of concern, though admits she also comes for his cooking. She warns him against inviting suspicious people into his. An official announcement declares a state of emergency in Songling City due to an unidentified disease called the Cerulean Blight. Symptoms include cerulean discoloration of skin resembling metal, slower reactions, and loss of appetite. A public health announcement is being made regarding the Cerulean Blight. Residents experiencing discomfort are advised to seek medical attention, while those under quarantine should follow medical guidance and avoid panic. The Grandeur River has been identified as the suspected primary source of infection. Water extraction from the river has been halted, and clean water is being imported to ensure continued supply for residents. Restricted areas have been established along both sides of the Grandeur River. Swimming, drawing water, and fishing are prohibited, and all cross-river traffic has been suspended to contain the spread of the blight. Animal contamination has resulted in loss of behavioral control among affected creatures. For safety reasons, a curfew will be enforced in Songling City starting at 7 p.m., with residents instructed to remain indoors. Feng Len, director of the Bureau of Husbandry and Agriculture, apologizes for the impact of the Cerulean Blight on agricultural production and daily life. The Bureau is working with other departments to investigate the origins and develop treatment plans. The Cerulean Blight significantly affects plants across various crop species. While not fatal to plants, it induces sterility, preventing them from producing seeds and fruits, which will lead to a major decline in agricultural production. To address food shortages, the Well-Being Office has coordinated the mobilization of Xi'an's grain reserves. Songling City has been granted permission to use reserve granaries, with supplies sufficient to sustain the population for over 2 years. Someone is escorting 2 individuals through the city, which has become increasingly dangerous. They need to reach Huixia headquarters quickly as the situation deteriorates around them. The group encounters aggressive animals that have invaded the city. They note that the animals are becoming tougher and more numerous, making their journey through the city perilous. Tsing, a member of Huixia, and Jertsing of the Bureau of Oversight and Integrity, welcomes representatives from Emian to Songling City. Despite the ongoing crisis, they must assist Emian as members of K. Singh requests information about what happened at the Tower of Babel, Emian's current resources and personnel, and whether the Cave Alliance will continue. The conversation is being held in complete privacy. It's revealed that Nemesis was behind an incident at Emian, with the betrayer coming from within Emian itself. Singh holds the new head librarian responsible despite their recent appointment to the role. After a tense exchange, Singh acknowledges the head librarian's qualifications. They suggest Nemesis has larger goals beyond eliminating Emian, and that the attack on Emian and the crisis in Xi'an may be connected. Wei Shu offers assistance to Emian and invites them to stay in Songlin City temporarily. However, their primary focus remains on resolving the crisis in Xi'an before addressing other matters. Singh inquires about Master Cosmos, the former head librarian of Emian, but appears to receive no definitive answer about their whereabouts. Someone offers to escort the player out, suggesting they could return to being an ordinary person. They claim someone has tampered with the player's consciousness, making them unable to question how they became head librarian. After a night's rest, Singh asks for assistance with city patrols due to being short-staffed. They believe the player's unique perspective might offer valuable insights into the situation. Singh explains their dual role as both a member of Wei Shu and Jurtsing of the Bureau of Oversight and Integrity. Unlike Emians who isolate themselves, Wei Shu maintains connections with the surface world while keeping the general population unaware of anomalies. A government worker prepares to check on residents during a crisis in Songlin City. The Grainger River has been contaminated, forcing residents to stay indoors while the municipal government distributes water from other regions. Residents complain about delayed water rations, revealing that after the Grainger River contamination, Songlin City now depends on water sourced from other regions, and the municipal government is struggling with distribution. During home visits, the government worker encounters a resident who recognizes them as Xin. They discuss Sister Xiang, who was hospitalized with a peculiar pregnancy complication. Her labor apparently delayed by a month, despite medical tests showing no issues. Strange occurrences are happening in Songlin City, with farm animals like oxen wandering into urban areas. The city appears to be deteriorating, with residents describing it as turning moldy since the Green Plague, also called Cerulean Blight, began. Residents report hearing unusual animal sounds at night: oxen, birds, and even what one resident believes was a bear roaring, despite bears not being native to the Fertile Plains region. Tensions rise as residents grow frustrated with confinement measures. They question whether the traditional harvest festival will still be held, showing concern for maintaining normalcy despite the crisis. At the hospital, there's an unexpectedly large number of patients. A woman recognizes visitors as friends of Xiang, who apparently saved her family member's life, suggesting Xiang has been helping people during the crisis. A medical professional reveals disturbing information about the Cerulean Blight. Patients show loss of appetite, slowed metabolism, and neurological changes. Most alarmingly, no deaths or births have occurred in the entire city since the outbreak began. The disease causes bizarre physical changes. A farmer with a broken leg has experienced increased bone density and hardness, to the point that standard surgical instruments can't treat him. The disease seems to freeze injuries and illnesses at the moment of infection. References to Jisha, the first emperor and revered ancestor of agriculture among the Qian people, suggest cultural significance. A statue in Central Square commemorates this historical figure, possibly connecting to the current agricultural crisis. A touching reunion occurs between siblings. The brother shares his happiness about reconnecting with a friend who once helped him, bringing pears as gifts. The conversation reveals deep concern between them. The siblings share an emotional moment where one appears to be involved in something dangerous, promises are made about self-preservation, suggesting one sibling may be planning something risky. A conversation reveals someone named Tio Hua is seriously ill with an incurable condition. A master figure provides special water as treatment, though earlier stated even he cannot change her fate. The scene shifts to a report about survivors from Emion arriving in Tian. A mysterious master speaks cryptically about these people as pieces in a game that don't belong, ordering their swift removal. A conversation unfolds between a master and their subordinate who is worried about someone named Tio Hua. The master reassures that Tio Hua will be fine and speaks of fulfilling promises that will relieve the suffering of all people in Xi'an. The master expresses concern about keeping someone within sight, fearing what might happen otherwise. They decide to return before dark, realizing they forgot to ask about the location of the central square. A young woman receives news about her father's safety. She mentions hearing strange noises outside that sounded like wild beasts, not like oxen that wandered into the city, but more like bears or tigers. The woman explains that the central square is actually called the Bureau of Husbandry and Agriculture Square, located in front of Nongsong Pavilion. The city was built around this agricultural center, reflecting Sanglin's focus on food production. The woman warns about Nongsang Pavilion being off-limits to outsiders as it houses the main server network controlling all agricultural systems in the city and fertile plains, with security as strict as a military zone. As fog thickens, the group stays close together to avoid separation. They encounter danger and seek shelter, noting the Bureau of Husbandry and Agriculture should be nearby. They notice a statue in the distance. A man identifies them as travelers from a distant land. He explains that while visitors would normally be welcomed, especially with the upcoming harvest festival, the current situation has suspended all publicity. The man identifies a statue as Xixia, the first emperor of Xi'an, who unified the region before leaving to travel the world. Xixia taught people about edible plants, medicinal herbs, and agricultural techniques, becoming revered as the ancestor of agriculture. The man questions the accuracy of historical records about Xixia, suggesting he might have been an irresponsible ruler who abandoned his duties, with later generations crediting him for others' achievement. The man explains that Zhang's beliefs differ from other civilizations. While others worship gods and focus on the afterlife, Zhang people venerate ancestors and focus on the present life, believing humans control their own fate. The man reveals that the harvest festival will be held earlier than usual due to unrest in Songlin City. Rather than celebrating a bountiful harvest, it will be an opportunity to pray for one and lift spirits. Someone mentions strange noises in the night, oxen mooing, birds chirping, and what sounded like bears roaring. This echoes the earlier description of wild beast sounds heard in the city. A confrontation occurs as someone finds the group. A fight between two hunters begins, with one declaring, "I am the plague." The situation becomes tense and chaotic. A report concludes that incidents in Songlin City and Fertile Plains are likely related or orchestrated by someone who now sees the listener as a threat. Questions arise about why the culprit is targeting the head librarian of Emion rather than more powerful figures. The Bureau of Husbandry and Agriculture has proposed advancing the harvest festival to appease the growing unrest among people, despite concerns about holding it during the escalating influence of something called the Anomaly. Director Feng of the Bureau of Husbandry and Agriculture is described as an exceptional, pragmatic leader who became director at a young age. Despite his youth, he has extensive experience and good relations with all departments, making few mistakes. Historians, folklorists, and archaeologists have differing opinions about the first emperor of Xi'an. The mainstream theory suggests he unified the world and traveled around Xi'an testing herbs and teaching agriculture. A less popular version claims the emperor actually sought immortality. According to unofficial records, his journey was driven by a desire to rule eternally. Testing herbs was merely a byproduct of his search for an immortality elixir. The emperor's agricultural teachings may have been self-serving. By teaching farming, he ensured people would provide him with offerings during his travels. People, unaware of his true motives, interpreted these actions as benevolence and worshipped him. With thousands of years having passed, differing theories about Emperor Xixia are normal. No living person has seen him, so whether he was exceptional or tyrannical remains uncertain. The truth might not align with any existing feature. Weishao was established during Sisha's era with extensive historical records preserved. Curiously, all records about Sisha himself are highly classified, accessible only to Master Yuan's son. The reason for this restriction remains unknown. Master Zhuan's son traveled to Qingyu City before the listener arrived in Songlin City. Qingyu City sits at Mount Tianqi, where it meets the Grandeur River, and is the origin of a mysterious anomaly affecting Songlin City downstream. Qingyu City was where the first emperor established Qian's original capital, serving as the civilization's cradle. The area has yielded countless bronze artifacts of remarkable craftsmanship. So advanced, it's difficult to believe they're thousands of years old. Weishu doesn't believe in gods, preferring to seek understanding through human knowledge rather than divine explanations. They believe humans will eventually comprehend the world through their own efforts. Key concepts emerge: bronze, immortality, eternal life, Xixia. These elements appear connected to the mysterious situation unfolding in the region. Since the Cerulean Blight began spreading, funeral parlors haven't received any corpses, and no newborns have been delivered at obstetrics departments. It's as if the cycle of life and death has been suspended in the affected area. A conversation is interrupted with news from the Delphic Oracle. Their water analysis revealed that contaminated cells stop dividing and transform from carbon-based structures into unknown compounds with metallic properties. The transformed cells won't reproduce or evolve independently, but will remain fixed in their current state. Without negative external interference, they possess an almost unlimited lifespan, essentially becoming eternal but static life forms. The Delphic Oracle concludes that these new life forms lack potential for growth and evolution, but possess nearly eternal lifespans. This connects back to the Emperor's quest for immortality, suggesting the current anomaly might be related. Cryptic phrases emerge: "I am the plague," followed by "flooded to fry," and "a spark of inspiration." These exclamations suggest a breakthrough realization about the nature of the anomaly and its connection to the ancient Emperor's quest.